Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Massey, I'm the CEO of Yourkeys, which is a B2B SaaS platform specifically for new build house developers. Now, I'm guessing you know that the PropTech space is quite hot and frothy and quite sexy. The reason being is because actually it's a big ticket item. So presumably most of you have bought houses, huge amounts of cost, lots of noses in the trough, but it means there's a big opportunity to make downstream revenues. So in terms of, I guess, from an investment perspective, there's 2 or 3 things. Clearly, is it a good idea? Does it make sense? Have we got good traction? And the other critical thing is, because I've invested as well, is have we got through the kind of the 2-year barrier? Because clearly 90% of all tech startups crash and burn within the first couple of years. So we're almost at the 2-year barrier, which is quite good. But also we're in the B2B space. So there's nothing I hate more than kind of listening to a founder who tells me they need to raise 4 or 5 million quid to hand it over to Google to chase after loads of consumers. So with B2B, we're chasing after 911 house builders. So it's quite a contentable market. SaaS, as we all know, software as a service, best thing since sliced bread because you get long-term residual revenues, and basically big corporates are very loath to boot you out the door once it's all fully embedded, so you get very little churn rate as well. So before I tell you what it is, I've actually started 7 companies, but I've had 3 exits in the B2B SaaS space. Not exactly a unicorn, but one thing's for sure, I'm making fewer mistakes with this company than I have with the previous. and I still managed to get an exit of 12.3 million last time, so I'm only warming up. But what I've done differently with this company is I've gone and cherry-picked all the very best people in my previous companies, and I've parachuted them into here. So I worked with Dan for 15 years, he was my CTO at Brainstorm. I worked with John 5 years ago. So my co-founder is Ricardo. Now he's from the kind of the building industry side, so he's an architect. He then moved over to a house builder, and he understands the pain. It's a very broken system, based, believe it or not, on, you know, in terms of selling a house, on the 1912 Town and Country Planning Act, and it's changed very little since. The good news is, for you guys, we love advisors. We've got 8 of them, and we reward them in lots of different ways through either equity or cash or a combination of both. And these guys are absolutely amazing. They open up loads of doors, they give seasoned advice, and no startup should be without a whole bunch of them. So what is it? So we've created a platform, essentially we've broken down, there are 64 steps in the entire process, no wonder it's painful and convoluted. And what we've done is we've actually kind of delineated each one of those steps, and we've automated as many of those as possible. But what's quite different is that you've got all these people typically kind of rowing in the wrong direction, and you have 0 kind of visibility. So we've actually created a platform which everybody in the ecosystem uses. And we've got specific dashboards for all of them to make it nice and user-friendly. Now, why is it important? So there is a target out there. They're trying to get to exchange of contracts in 28 days. Only 5% of sales actually do. The average in the UK is 63 days. Now, the reason why that is, you know, such a scary number, because as soon as you get anywhere near about 40 or 50 days, there is an enormous spike in the number of drop-offs. People change their mind, they'll choose another house, they'll get cold feet, they'll go on a cruise. You know, it's just a colossal waste of time and money and budgets and energy. 39%. It represents about £1 billion worth of waste in the house building industry, which is nuts. So we've kind of introduced a platform that everybody can use. So last week we were interviewed by the Sunday Times, and the journalist, she said, okay, here's the headline, can you make it happen? And she said, right, headline is, forget buying a house in 60 days, I bought a house in 60 minutes. Right, and that she wanted to do that with a glass of wine, sitting there at home, and she had a credit card out to be able to put a deposit down. And we only cheated once, because we didn't do a credit check on her, but we actually went through all the various steps. We had, you know, the mortgage broker standing by, we had the conveyancer, everyone was standing by. So, and we achieved it in 54 minutes. So you can actually buy a property online. We are the first guys on this planet to be able to do that. So for pre-sale off plan, when essentially you're buying a CGI, a kind of a representation of what it's going to look like, then actually buying a property online is not that big a stretch. And of course we know that the whole world is turning digital. You know, it's nuts when you can get a £10 Uber taxi journey, or you can buy a £5 package on Amazon, and you get a much better experience. You get great UX, you get visibility and transparency, you know exactly what's happening, and yet the biggest expense you're ever going to have in your life, you have an awful experience. Diabolical, you don't know what's going on, you're chasing the conveyancer every 2 minutes, and of course you've got the estate agent in there doing absolutely diddly squat. No estate agents in the room. So what we've done is, in terms of the average number of days it takes to go through our sausage factory, we get it down from 63 days to 21 days, which is brilliant because it's in this no man's land there that the drop-offs occur. So if we can kind of get to exchange of contracts a hell of a lot quicker, that means fewer drop-offs, which means more sales, and also there's an awful lot of faffing around in there, just shepherding the process that we kind of strip out. Oops. So key benefits for the different stakeholders, house builders. Obviously, exchange of contracts, higher sales, but actually, you imagine trying to do a reconciliation, and let's say you've got 100 units on the go at the same time, all at different kind of stages, and you're having to rely upon the estate agent, and the mortgage broker, and the marketing suite, and the conveyancing system to actually feed information back, when half of them are lying and the other half is completely out of date. You have to compile it all together, and then you have to report to the board, this is exactly where we're at, which clearly is slightly painful and also highly inaccurate. Our lovely friends, the estate agents, well, they spend 60% of their time shepherding the process. So if we actually do that, because we have automated alerts, we kind of inform everybody in the process, then actually it's going to give them a huge amount of time to be able to go down to Topshop and buy their cheesy suits, you know, especially the ones with the high, you know, the half cut. I hate those. But we include all these kind of automated, know your customer anti-money laundering, all free of charge, all built into the platform. Now, conveyancers, they're fairly slippery, right? So I actually thought they would run to the hills because we shine enormous spotlight into their murky world. And actually, what's quite surprising, we've only ever gone out and pitched to 2 big ones. We've got 27 on our panel. So we've had 25 of them come to us, which is kind of weird. But you start to kind of look under the bonnet and you realise that actually there's not a lot of like legals going on there. It's mainly kind of perfunctory admin tasks that they bat out to kind of low-level staff. They call them kind of paralegals, basically the glorified admin secretaries. So they actually quite like the idea of an efficient engine to stop anything from falling through the cracks. But also, if you imagine, they spend a lot of time kind of fielding emails and phone calls in the entire process. So of course, all that's removed because the buyer has absolute visibility. And if we can get to exchange in 21 days, they get fees faster. Final thing is we do a 5-star Airbnb rating system. We've got some clever algorithms behind it to kind of check up to make sure they're responding on time. So they see it actually as a good biz dev tool, because if you've got 5-star ratings, you're on page 1. If you get 3-star, you're on page 25. And then of course, home buyers. They have a shocking user experience at the moment. So all this will be visible. So Saturday night, glass of wine, they can see exactly what's going on. They get notifications, alerts. We've digitized the entire upgrade process. So we've just brought house buying, kicking and screaming into the 21st century. Mortgage Advice Bureau, they do 60% of all the mortgages for new builds. They're a partner, they're our second largest investor. And we're at the stage now where we can do an offer in principle within an hour. And by the end of the year, we'll have offers in principle within microseconds because of open banking. And these guys are at the forefront in terms of all of market open banking. We earn huge fees out of mortgages and out of insurance products, no prizes for guessing. So, since we're a couple of years old almost, we've had 15 software engineers beavering away. We launched last October. We went out to 10 kind of beta clients to kind of get some feedback, and we needed to do some serious kind of rewrites in terms of our software. But what's interesting is we've made 52 presentations to house builders. Only one has said no, and that was because of the conveyancer bizarrely. So we're in a kind of crazy situation where we're desperately trying to onboard, as we call it, i.e. get around all their ecosystem, do lunch and learns with their marketing suite staff, etc. So we've got our work cut out. We've just recruited some more people to do the onboarding, the account management team. We're still in conversations with the big boys. Redrow and Galliard are investing in this round. JLL, we will be live with their dashboard by the end of May, and we've got 27 conveyancers. So one thing's for sure, since last October, we've not been lazy. We've been pretty busy. And that's not all. We've got a pretty enormous vision. So we're not going to get involved in the second-hand market. We're going to focus. And that means what we really want to do is we want to dominate the new build sector in multiple countries and open that up to global buyers. Now that sounds probably a grandiose kind of claim. But in fact, our largest investor is a big property outfit. And they've got 5 different developments from Portugal, Spain, Australia, Dubai. Well, their vision is that their developments, they want to be able to kind of list them. We sort out all the conveyancing process for that given country. We create a separate template and we open it up to a global market. And what we're going to do, we're going to demonstrate we can do that by the end of the year. So it has enormous potential. So what do I need? Oh, I'm so desperate for a commercial director / finance director. But that person needs to really understand financial modelling. This business, we've got 3 juicy revenue streams, which actually, there are 12 revenue streams that hang off those 3. And I need somebody who really understands Excel, really understands financial modelling, who kind of gets their hands dirty. Because it's a complex business with huge amounts of revenue opportunity, and we just need to be able to maximise those revenues. I don't know what's going on here.
My fault. Okay, lost in translation.
So, Chairman, we're probably just about in the market for a chairman, and we're looking for someone pretty senior, someone with kind of global international experience, etc., etc. So, we're at Super Seed round, as we call it. It's a 2 million round, which we have, I think we've raised about 600 of that 2 million. We're trying to close that at the end of June. We've got our original investors, we've got a whole bunch of new angels, and we're also talking bizarrely to about 9 early stage VCs. I think 8 of them are still in the race. So, and then we're looking to do a proper kind of Series A round May next year. Revenue streams, now what I like to say here is, of course, they're preposterous. I would not be an ambitious founder if I didn't put preposterous. The only difference is that we've got an unbelievably detailed financial model which is absolutely granular, so we can at least justify based upon a whole set of assumptions. But we were looking at a potential value in about 5 years' time of 800 million. Now, let's say instead of it being 800 million, it was 80 million. And our valuation today is 7.5 million pre-money on our next 2 million round. That's still a 10x improvement in terms of your investment, even if we were at 80 million. But we're quite confident, and who knows, I've been around the block a few times, and we're quite confident at a big valuation. So, in summary, we've got a very interesting platform with huge traction, and we need some very smart, bright people. And if you're interested in joining the funding raise, well, please speak to us afterwards. Oops. Thank you very much.